Hello everybody, my name's Bronwyn. I live in New Zealand and I'm getting ready to take back my motherland. That's a pretty strange phrase, take back your motherland. It's a phrase that was used by a woman called Anastasia in the Siberian taiga in 1996. She met a trader in the Siberian taiga. They went back to where she lived in her glade, and over the next 3 days he learned the most incredible things about humanity and what the future is going to unfold for humanity, that she then encouraged him to go back to Moscow and to Novosibirsk in Russia and write 10 books on these subjects. He had a couple of other visits with her along the way, and the stories have become bigger and more specific and very focused on what the future is to be for humanity. So this is the story that I want to tell you now, is the story of Anastasia, who lives in the Siberian taiga in the Russian Federation, and the story she told Vladimir Megre over 3 days on his initial visit there, and how the things that she had predicted back in 1996 are now coming true. This is quite astounding, right? So in 1996, one of the things that Anastasia predicted was the Russian government will give the people free land. When I first read these books, it was 2011, I thought, wow, what a wonderful thing to happen, but never in a million years did I think it would actually happen. And then in January of 2015, we find that one of the parliamentarians in the Russian Duma, Yuri Trupnev is his name, had forwarded a bill that every family in Russia should be gifted 1 hectare of free land per family. For those of us who deal in acres, that's 1.47 acres, but 2.47 acres, but for convenience we'll just call it 2.5 acres. So it looked like Russia was going to do it. I wasn't quite sure what to make of this at the time, and the British media were certainly getting in a flurry over it. They started putting out articles like, would you go to Russia if President Putin gave you free land? And there was a vox pop on one of these articles, I can't remember which, The Guardian or the UK Express maybe, where they had interviewed people in the UK, and people in the UK had given their opinion. Yes, they'd go to Russia, they'd love to go. No, it's too cold. Do you think I'm crazy? Yes, that would be wonderful. So this vox pop was run. However, President Putin was never ever offering free land to people who live in the UK. And in fact, it wasn't even Putin who was offering the free land. It was a bill on the table put there by parliamentarian Yuri Trupnev. So a year and a half goes by, and now we find that the bill has actually been tabled and signed as an Act of Parliament. This happened on the 2nd of May, Monday the 2nd of May 2016. Now the story has got a huge backstory to it. I mentioned Anastasia in the Siberian taiga before, and in the story she said, yes, your governments will give you back your land all over the world, not only in Russia, but all over the world this will happen. So we're now looking at this legislation that has been passed, as Anastasia predicted in 1996 in her discussions with Vladimir Megre. And well, it's just got to take your breath away, really, doesn't it? So could it be that the next part of what Anastasia says is also going to come true, that governments all around the world are going to give us back our land? Now, your reaction is probably the same as mine. Not in a million years, right? You've got to be crazy thinking that the governments of the world are going to give people or families back 1 hectare of land on which to build a family homestead, a little farm, a place where there's self-sufficiency, a place where the children can grow up free and happy with animals in their backyard, and where the families can start producing their food sustainably, and also to invigorate the land, to clean the land, to detoxify the land, and a place where animals can roam freely, come and go off your property, little foxes, wild duck, the indigenous animals of your country, and where you can start to grow crops that are suitable to feed your own family. So which government would do that, for heaven's sakes? Any of our governments? You'll be shaking your head by now as well. Well, one government has, and that is the government of Russia. The Russian Federation did this on the 2nd of May 2016. So now I want to unfold a story over the next few weeks of how we also can take back our motherlands in all the countries of the world by following the model that Russia has shown us. I know this sounds very fluffy and airy-fairy, and yes, my family think I'm crazy and all the rest of it. However, if the people of Russia were able to forward this plan for their own people and for the prosperity and health and well-being of their nation, we all can. I know in my heart of hearts this plan is going to come about, and it is unfolding now in front of our eyes. We in the West haven't had the advantage of being in the hotspot, in the hub of where all this action and activity has taken place, where Vladimir Megre, the author, he wrote his books in the Russian language. He got them onto the streets by 1996. And from there, they have been picked up by millions and millions of people living in Russia. There's 123 million people in Russia. It's a very big country. And millions of Russians know the story. So they began to activate, began to move, began to form groups, began to form political societies, began to have discussion meetings, not only on how to actually get back to their land, which is the dream that Anastasia has given for them in Russia, but also how to bring a political persuasion about that would influence their government towards creating the legislation, which we now see 20 years later. It only took Russia 20 years. This is quite astounding, don't you think? From 96, 2006, 2016. So 20 years for the people in Russia to bring this new idea about and for it to be legislated on. In my way of thinking, this is possible for absolutely every country in the world. The ball has been put in motion by the books being written into, I'd say, a good 20 languages by now. They were translated into English originally in 2005, and a second edition was published in 2008. Both of those editions were translated and edited by John Wordsworth and Leonard Sharishkin, and they paid great attention to the detail of these books. A third edition's now been produced by Marion Schwartz in December of 2013, and it's been noted that these particular translations veer away from the meanings in the Russian in the original Russian quite a lot. I was actually speaking to a New Zealand woman this morning through Skype, and she has read Anastasia, which is the 10th book in the series. She read the first 9, which were in the Wordsworth translations. And she said, when she read Anastasia, it just didn't have the vibrancy for her. So my feeling is that the Marion Schwartz translations are going to tell you the story, but they're not going to give you the vibration and the full meaning of the words of what Anastasia was bringing to the world. But this is, of course, absolutely your choice to read whichever versions you wish. If you want to pick up the Marion Schwartz books, they are on Vladimir Megre's website, which is www.vmegre.com. Should get you there, I think that's it. So, that is a brief summary of the overall view of what has happened in Russia. There were a series of books. They were read by a lot of people. The people became activated. They started to join together in their local communities. And now we have the legislation that's passed. This, I believe, is a template that we can adopt in every country of the world. And I have been writing quite a bit about this ever since May of 2016. I'll put a lot of links below so that you can follow those through and look at the links and look at the ways that I'm suggesting for people to get together. There are a number of groups in place already on Facebook, and various other websites are popping up all the time, sharing this information, and thus people are starting to be activated in their countries. Hungary already has a village where people have gone back to their land. Poland is in discussion. They had a fairly major meeting at the beginning of April, looking for finance to be able to set up. And the reason for the finance and why people are buying land initially is there needs to be a model within the country to show the government this works. This is the new plan for our future. For the quality of health, for people who are feeling dislocated generally in city environments, people who have been incarcerated, put into prisons, and now feel like they don't have a place in society. So the remedy for all of these things is to reconnect people back to their land, back to their motherland. That's why this series and why these websites are called Take Back Your Motherland. This is the point we are at in history. We need to take back our motherlands, reclaim that has been stolen from us by successive kings and governments and corporations. Reclaim our land and bring ourselves back to our mother, which is the original way that we were always intended to live. We have been created, if you like. Sorry if there's evolutionists out there. I studied sixth form biology as well, and I'm very happy with the idea of various biological theories around Darwinism. I'm not Christian. I'm not coming from a Christian point of view, but we might get a little bit more into the way I feel about spirituality and the philosophy and the embodiment of creator within everything. So I probably take quite a Hinduistic kind of point of view, a yogic point of view. And all this takes us back into the Vedas, which is where Anastasia receives her wisdom and knowledge from. So it's all in harmony, but this will be in other sessions. But for now, I just want to talk really about the activation of people in their countries to find the information they need to forward this idea that you will, in your lifetime, return to your motherland. The land is yours. It was not created by any government, state, king, corporation. The land has always been there. The people belong to the land. When you're born in your country, you belong to that land. And here, over centuries and centuries and centuries, has developed this idea and been accepted by tribes and peoples all over the world that we're meant to pay money for land. So my question is, who paid for the land in the first place? It doesn't make sense to me. Because when we go back far enough, we find that people were generally nomadic. And when they took up a piece of land, they used it and they considered themselves as the guardians, such as the Māori here in New Zealand consider themselves the kaitiaki of the land. So this is the place that we're going to return to, is being guardians and caretakers of the land, not the usurpers and the users of the land, using her as a commodity. Thank you for your time. See you again.